What's up, young guns? This is Derek Hurtado. I am with Kyree Oliver here, and we only met, what was it, just a month or two ago?
Yeah, probably about a month.
And we met while there was a deal being made with my business partner, Jesus. We were literally sitting down at a table, and for the first time had a few minutes to talk to you, and they were immediately on a call, closing a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to get to know you a little bit more, get to have the young guns know you a bit more on kind of your journey, because I know it's been an interesting one, and not just it's been hard, difficult, but also super rewarding.
Yeah.
And you do a lot of different many things, from marketing with Facebook to coaching, a lot of different facets to you. And so I just kind of want to get started with, like, where'd you come from? Where were you born, and kind of how'd you get started with Kyree Oliver?
Yeah. So I'm originally from Antioch, California. It's in Northern California. It's about 35 miles east of San Francisco. And so, especially down here in Arizona, I just tell everybody I'm from San Francisco. It's so much easier. It's like just the closest big city. You just tell them you're from there. So yeah, I grew up, like, my brother and I grew up with a single white mom, raising two brown kids, because we're mixed race. And so, I mean, from early on, I started to realize, like, because we grew up in a very, very, like, poor white neighborhood. So I was like, okay, I don't look like my neighbors. I don't look like my friends at school. I don't look like any of these people. But then I think when I was in about fourth grade, they opened up a bunch of Section 8, like, government housing near where I grew up. And so it was the first time I came into school with, like, kids who looked like me.
Gotcha.
But I quickly realized, like, oh, I don't act like them. Like, they were the kids who were talking back to the teacher, getting detention. And this is, I think, like, fourth grade, so I was like 9 years old.
Trying to figure out your identity yet. It was kind of like, what is, my environment doesn't make sense to who I am.
It was weird. So I was like, I don't look like these kids, but my upbringing is a lot more like them. But I also don't act like these kids, even though I look like them. So it was like weird mixing of two worlds. And I remember my mom, I came home from school one day when I think I was like 9 years old. And I remember this kid on the playground had told me I'm not allowed to hang out with the black kids anymore.
Really?
Because like I was nice to the teacher. I got my homework done. Like, it was all the things that I saw as positive were the reasons I wasn't allowed to hang out with them. And so I kind of mixed that with, like, the view I had seen from my father, my dad's friends. Like, the view I had gotten from every black person I'd ever had in my life was negative. So to me, I was like, I remember coming home and telling my mom, I was like, I don't think I want to be black anymore. I don't think it's something I'm interested in.
What was the expression on her face? Was she just like...
super shocked.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't know how to have those conversations. My mom has blonde hair and green eyes. I'm not adopted. Like, it's my biological mom.
Yes.
So she can't connect to me in that way.
No.
She has no idea. My dad just wasn't able to get out of his own mindset of, like, it's all the white guy's fault. Everything in my dad's life had always been some white dude's fault.
Really? Just
and I didn't
you've always
subscribe to
heard
that.
Yeah.
Because I was, like, really close to my great-grandfather, my grandpa, and my two uncles on my mom's side.
Were they similar? So that, or a completely different view?
Completely. So I didn't really know anybody on my dad's side.
Gotcha.
And so from his perspective, like, white people were evil. But then my whole family that I grew up with was white. They've done everything that's ever been done nice for me.
Yeah.
And so it was a weird, like, I had to start shaping my identity a lot earlier than the people. I mean, most of us don't do that until college. Like, we're not really faced with who am I and how do I show up in the world until around high school, college age, and some people even later.
Yeah, because you kind of reflect your environment growing up. But for you, there's conflicting environments. And so that's fascinating. From that, what kind of became of you? I mean, going through that, did you deal with frustration through middle school, high school, or did you figure it out, kind of who you were?
I realized that I was in a weird position, and in a positive way. I was never been an outcast. So I've never not had friends. I was never the kid who didn't fit in. Well, I was kind of the kid who didn't fit in, but it wasn't like I was rejected because I didn't fit in. I was always had my social group of friends. I'd always played sports. I was a high-level athlete when I was in high school. I ended up playing football in college as well. And so it was a weird thing of, like, oh, I'm not like any of these people, but I'm also not really outside of the group of people. So again, you kind of just have to be solidified in, here's who I am. I don't get sucked into this group or another group, but I'm able to be in different groups of people and be comfortable.
Gotcha. And then so kind of going through high school, you begin to kind of figure out more what groups of people you identified with more versus less? Or like coming out of high school, did you have a better perspective of yourself? How were you looking at Kyree as like what was Kyree going to be doing? Like, did you have kind of forward thinking in high school? What were you wanting to do? Or you wanted to go to college, or you wanted to do this? Like, what was kind of that Kyree?
Yeah, I thought I was going to be an NFL player.
Really?
I mean, I had gotten a scholarship to play in college. I was heading off to college. So to me, I was like, okay, Kyree Oliver's an athlete, does well in school, but wasn't really like committed to school. School was just a way for me to be able to play football.
Yes.
And so, yeah, the only thing that made sense in my head was I'm going to be an NFL player. I'm going to a Division I college, play there for a few years, and then I'll get drafted. Duh. Like, in my own head, there was no other option. And then ended up going to college, had horrible experience while I was there. I was only there for about 8 months and ended up moving back home. There's a whole lot that went on during that time. Not like we don't have enough time to go through all of it. Of course. But I've talked about it on other podcasts. Like if anybody wants to look it up, I've talked about it on most podcasts that I've been on. But yeah, ended up bringing me back home, and like then all that identity that I had built up was gone. So I was like, I'm not Kyree Oliver, the football player anymore. Oh, who like?
You didn't have any other backup plans either. You were just nothing. That was it.
That's what it was.
And for a lot of people, like I mean, a lot of younger guys, younger girls, that's kind of the situation most of us are dealt with. We're growing up, we see something in high school that kind of clicks. It's usually something we've already been doing. Sports is a big one. You know, you want to go to college, play sports, and when you get there, even if you are successfully, you know, playing sports, you see some of your friends that all of a sudden first semester they're gone, and you're just like, what happened? And then they kind of taper into this depressive state. Did you kind of have a depressive state as well, or what was your mental like? What was your mentality like after you're having to drop out? Because that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So that's a big. Is that one of your first big kind of in your mind at that time a failure?
It was the first time I'd ever failed at anything.
Okay.
And that was tough. Everything had always been easy for me.
Yeah.
School had never been hard. Football had never been hard. I'd only played football for 3 years when I was done with high school. I played sophomore, junior, and senior year of high school. I've never been bad at it. Like, obviously I got a lot better as I played, but I've never been a bad athlete. I'd never been bad in school. I'd never had a hard time making friends. So it was the first time I felt like, oh, I'm not amazing at everything. And it was a weird feeling.
Yeah. How did you deal with that?
I got super depressed, and I was like scrambling to figure out if I'm not that, then what am I?
Yes.
And I didn't want to talk about what had happened at school. So for 6 months, I'll say shortly, like got to the point where I was like jumped and beaten by my teammates in college. And for even 6-7 months after moving back home, I didn't want to talk about it. My mom didn't know, my brother didn't know. Nobody in my life. Nobody knew. They knew I was depressed. They knew.
Did you talk to your friends about this, or is it complete?
I didn't talk to anybody about it. I just said I wasn't happy. And it looked like such BS to everybody else because I just said, oh, I wasn't happy. Which is why most people would move back home, was like, oh, I was homesick.
Yeah.
I wasn't homesick. Like some actual crazy stuff had actually happened.
Wow.
But I made it look like everybody else. It's like, oh, it just, it didn't fit. I wasn't the right person for it and blah, blah, blah.
So you're back home depressed. What was that pivot that got you out of that depression? Or how long did it take? What happened after?
Yeah.
So obviously you're here now, so.
I realized that, like, okay, now what? Yeah. I kind of had that moment of like, okay, cool, I feel bad for myself. Now, if I'm supposed to be amazing at something, I'm no longer amazing at anything that I'm able to do or willing to do right now. Because it had kind of killed my love for football too.
Yeah.
And so I was like playing at junior college back home, but I knew I wasn't in love with it anymore. And so it's like, okay, now what's the new thing? Mm-hmm. And so for whatever reason, I started realizing, okay, I needed my new identity. And I also want to help other people with theirs. So I didn't have enough life experience to do that yet. So the only way that I was able to figure it out was, I was like, I'm just going to interview as many people as possible.
Okay.
And so from when I was 19 until 21, right before I moved down here to Arizona, I moved down here like 2 weeks before my 22nd birthday. And so for that, like 3 years, I just interviewed everybody I could talk to. I ended up interviewing like 879 people, I want to say,
What?
From like every different area of life you could possibly think, from like doctors, lawyers, interviewed friends,
Was this
family.
over the phone in person, or what was the kind of the
everything.
setup? Really?
I did it over Skype.
You
I
just
did
couldn't
it
stop
on the
reaching
phone.
people.
I just messaged people, and then they connect me with like, oh, you'd love this person's story. Oh, you should talk to somebody like this. I've talked to Shaolin monks.
Really?
I conducted 3 death row inmate
How do you
interviews.
initiate those conversations with people that are like death row inmates? How on earth do you get in conversation with them?
I don't even know how this was by, and I won't say what prison it was at.
Yeah.
I told them I was doing a college project, and then I needed to interview 3 very interesting people who would ruin their lives. And so I used like my old junior college ID, and I was just like, hey, would it be at all possible for me to like, I don't need to film it, I don't need to record it, I just want to like come in and ask them some questions, and it's for a college project, and they let me do it. I was like, you people are very irresponsible, but cool, I'll take the stories. And so I was just able to talk to so many different people, and even just like unsuspecting people. My Spanish teacher from high school, I was like blown away at the things that he had experienced.
And what kind of questions did you ask in these conversations?
Everything. I started off with like, I have these specific questions, but almost always it would go off into just storytelling, and we're just talking back and forth, and what they just told me would lead me into a different question that I didn't think I was going to ask. And so it was like love, fear, what keeps you up at night, what do you want said like at your funeral.
Wow. So it wasn't like professional, it was more so personal.
Had nothing to do with, I wasn't in business yet.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So it had nothing to do with business. What I realized was business is all about people.
Yeah.
And so since I had all that knowledge of people, business became super easy. Like business is not even close to the hardest thing I've ever done, because I understand people very well. So business becomes a lot easier. Networking becomes a lot easier.
Especially when you talk to that many people. I mean, for now, networking must be the easiest thing ever.
There's nothing, literally nothing to it. Like I don't think that I'm networking most of the time. I think I'm just having a conversation until they're like, cool, how do I work with you?
I'm literally in my mind thinking, who do I want to talk to that I haven't? Yet I want to have a conversation and well.
But think about if I had a podcast.
Yeah.
Like you're doing it the right way.
Yeah.
I just didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Yes.
But when you get like Joe Rogan's podcast is on like 1,300 episodes.
Yeah.
He's interviewed 1,300 people.
Yeah.
You get a lot of information just about life, about their expertise, what they love. So it's just a big information dump when you do it.
Have you thought about getting into doing podcasting yourself?
Yeah, I will eventually. Yep.
Because that is a huge list of people that you talk to. And I'm like, I don't even think I've met that many people, to be honest with you. Wow.
Well, it's a weird feeling too. Like I can honestly say I intimately know 879 people. Like I know things that their spouses don't know, that their kids don't know.
Wow.
I'll say there are a few people that I've interviewed that have literally like murdered people that they've never been found out for. And they were willing to, I don't know why. I think part of it was like, he's 19, so
yeah,
they didn't have anything to prove to me. So they were just willing to talk to me about things that they probably shouldn't have. And when we get entrenched in the conversation, you just start opening up about things. There were legit 3 people that I interviewed where I'm like, oh, you should for sure be arrested for that.
But you're open-minded the entire conversation. You weren't judging.
Not
you
interested.
were just completely open to what they had to say. And what were you trying to obviously you have all these conversations, what were you trying to pull from it? As you said, you were asking all these different types of questions, but while you started going, obviously the more people you talked to, you started to see similar patterns, or what did you, from that whole experience, what did you gain from it?
I gain perspective. I get to now understand where people are coming from, having nothing to do with how I feel about it. And that was a big shift for me because I'd always had my judgment about anything that anybody did. Now I definitely still judge. I get people all the time who are like, we shouldn't judge each other. I'll judge the shit out of anybody. But I leave an open space for you to prove me wrong and to be different than that. I'm also not going to treat you based on my judgment. I'm going to allow you to show me who you are, and I'll interact with you based on that.
Gotcha.
So judging, I think, is something that it's ingrained in us. At one point, it was used for survival.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we get our street smarts from, is if I can see you walking down the street, I'm going to make certain assumptions about you to dictate whether I stay on that side of the street or not.
And the gut feeling. I mean, you might go into business with someone saying what you want to hear, yet for some reason there's something about the way they are that doesn't add up.
Happens all the time.
And
I'll even
go with that gut versus not, because usually it ends up with a bad situation.
I'll get it sometimes, like friends who will be all gung-ho about this person, and I'll be honest and say I just there's something off there. Sometimes I can't put my finger on it. Sometimes I don't know exactly what it is, but there's something off with that person right there. And like 6 months later, it comes out that they've done these things, and everybody comes back like, how did you even possibly pick up on that? It's just, I've interacted with so many people.
That's the key skill that you took away too,
things.
is you're able to immediately talk to so many people, so many different walks of life, that you can almost pick up when you see a new person. You have all these profiles you kind of know of people, and you can better assess who they are. That's
my bullshit meter's on high all the time.
Wow. Yeah. So you did this whole process while you're still living at your mom's?
No, I only lived back home for 2 weeks, I want to say. Then I rented a room from friends.
Okay, so during that time frame, where were you at?
I was in Northern California still. I was in it's weird, my mom's best friend from growing up, her sisters and like her husband and they had 5 kids. I was in their basement, or like it was their garage. It was like a 2-car and then one more car garage, but that last one had been turned into like a bedroom.
Yeah.
And so I was like kind of in their basement garage area of their house, and I just lived there for, it was like a year and a half.
And did your family know about that? Like, were they? So they were where they?
It was family friends.
And you started talking more about why you quit, or?
Yeah. So actually, probably 4 months after I moved in with them is when I finally like talked about it. I made a blog website where I like just dumped everything out there, and I talked about like all of it. And since then, I've been very open about it because I started interviewing those people, getting a better grasp of myself.
Did you bring those things up to them? Or was it always like a one-way conversation of asking questions?
Yeah, no, it was always one way. Okay. When I was doing the interviews, it was always about them.
Gotcha.
And that's something I've learned in business about, like in marketing. I own a marketing company now. Like when I'm marketing to people, it's not about me. It's about who's our customer, who's our client, who's our whatever that we're trying to serve, and how do we best serve them, devoid of how I feel about it or what I want from it. And so I think that was a lot built on those conversations too.
Gotcha. I see that as a big lack with a lot of people, is it's kind of surface conversation and then more so on the numbers versus actually looking at that person and seeing what they're wanting to do or work in that company. And so that's fascinating, man. That's wild. You were in that garage, or the back of the garage, for a year and a half, and you interviewed all these people. What happened next?
Yeah. So I moved from there.
Were you working at the time, or?
Yeah, I was working in special education.
Okay.
So I actually worked back in my old high school, and I was working in a very like intensive special education program. It was for 18 to 22-year-olds who had like severe behavioral problems. And so I've still got like scars all over my hands and arms from students like scratching like crazy, getting hit, kicked, spit on, threw up on, like craziness. And I worked there for almost 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I just,
3 years.
Again, there's a lot more interaction. I learned all my patience from that job, because it's like you're dealing with somebody who's an adult, 18 to 22 years old.
You expect them to have responsibility, but
they don't know any, like also dealing with it like they don't know any better. If anybody else was to do that with me, we're getting in a fight.
Yeah.
But with these, I call them kids. They weren't kids because I was only 19 when I started working there.
Yeah.
So most of them were actually older than me.
Yeah.
And so it was like, how do you treat this adult with the mind mentality of a 4 to 6-year-old? How do you guide them through their everyday? That taught me so much, like compassion, patience, empathy towards other people. And so like I kind of accidentally learned so many of these different lessons throughout life that's helped in my business.
Wow. That's I feel like a lot of people haven't gone, like a lot of people, they want to volunteer, they help out with and like me growing up, I volunteered a lot for donating food, raising money. But when you actually get involved with the community and involved with the people that are dealing with mental disabilities, it's eye-opening. And especially looking at yourself, and you're dealing with all this internal, like you failed out of school with the whole thing, you're dealing with and trying to find meaning in all these different people. And now you're working with a group of people, that are suffering with mental disabilities or physical disabilities. it's very hard to feel bad about yourself when there's people that are sometimes seeing such joy in their life, yet their situation to you seems like it's way worse.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that kind of mindset, did that have a mindset shift for you, or how did that kind of progress over your 3 years? Did you start to, like, you said you grew patience and more, understanding, but on your level with the whole failure and your kind of positivity on life, did it go up or?
Yeah, it made me harder on myself for sure, because it was just that. It's like, if these people can deal with this all day, every single day. Now, realize, like, they're all born with it, so they don't know any different.
Mm-hmm.
But even, like, so I read this book. It's called Man's Search for Meaning. Still one of my favorite books, by Viktor Frankl.
Yeah, psychology.
Holocaust survivor. He was a psychiatrist before he, like, was in the Holocaust. But and I don't want to ruin the book for anybody, but the main thing he gets from it is, like, I need to attach a meaning to anything that happens in life, positive, negative. If you can attach a meaning to, like, why you were in the Holocaust, you can, like, who am I to not?
When you say meaning, you mean kind of like a purpose, or?
Yeah, like, why that happened and how that's supposed to fuel you and propel you forward.
Wow.
And, like, really having a purpose for everything that happened. Like, you went through that for a reason, and figuring out that reason is your responsibility, and you're supposed to attach, he calls it logotherapy, attaching that to whatever the experience was. If he's able to come to that term from going through the Holocaust.
And how easy would it be to blame
who
the
am
Nazis?
I? Exactly. And that's the logical thing to do is, no, I didn't have shit to do with what happened to me.
It was,
but if you can
fingers.
still take responsibility for that, even just, like, pretend you're responsible for it, because that's all you are able to control anyway, is what you do.
So when we're entrepreneurs, we pointed fingers before growing up, and we realized it doesn't really get anywhere.
It does me no good. So from what I got from that book is, if he's able to come to terms with it, who am I not to, from my own experiences?
Wow.
And, like, how selfish and how, like, narrow-minded of me to be wallowing in what I went through, when this dude's able to come to that conclusion based on what he experienced, which is, we can pretty safely say, is one of the worst things that's ever happened to human beings in general.
Yeah.
Like, the whole first half of the book is him detailing what he had to do, burying his friends, watching people get shot, like, because they fell.
Family split apart.
Oh my gosh.
It's nuts. That
Insanity.
book's a good book. What was it called?
Man's Search for Meaning.
Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Yeah.
Amazing book. But, like, this was all my perspective building phase.
Yeah.
And then, like, shortly, I moved in with my ex-girlfriend's parents. They owned 11 acres of land, and I lived in her dad's old duck hunting trailer in the back of their property. Like, I couldn't even stand up straight in this place. I've got pictures of it on my phone.
Wow.
It was like nothing. And I lived there for 2 years. I was working in special education. I was driving for Lyft and Uber in San Francisco, and I just started marketing towards the tail end of me living there. I started marketing like 4 months before I moved down here to Arizona.
How did you get this whole marketing thing come out? Because that seems completely different than what you're doing.
So I started doing it for a friend of mine. We've both been volunteering at some pretty big, like, personal development events.
Okay.
And so he was becoming a speaker, and he was getting into that whole thing, building his brand online. And he had hired another marketing company. And I was actually just making fun of him one day.
Yeah.
And I was like, they got him like 30,000 followers on Facebook on his fan page, but he'd get like 7, 8, 9 likes on anything that he would post on his fan page. And to me, I'm like, people just must not want to hear what you have to say. Like, you must just not have a very good message, or people just don't care.
You got curious on the whole system.
Yeah, I was like, why is it that literally nobody's responding to anything he's doing? And I'd asked him, like, okay, the company you hired, do you know who they're targeting for this? Who they're actually bringing to your page? And now that I've been in marketing for 3.5 years, I now know that, like, everything they told him was complete BS. And so they told him the whole, like, well, it's a process, and we're having to ramp up, and we're, trying to build momentum, and just all the stuff you do to stall your client, not like so that they don't fire you. Yeah. And so I ended up going into the back end of Facebook, and I had no idea that Facebook even like had a marketing platform. Yeah. And so I looked at like the insights on his page, and I was like, dude, you have 29,000 followers, 28,000 of them are from the Philippines and like don't speak English.
Yeah.
Why would they be bringing them to your page? And we figured out that they were scamming him. So he's paying like, I think it was like $3,000 a month for the company, plus another $1,500 a month in ad spend. And all they were doing was they were paying another company in the Philippines to just start bringing page fans in on a daily basis into his page. So it looked like he was growing as far as his fans, and they were actually doing nothing for his business.
How on earth, like, for a lot of people that aren't in the marketing field, you know, but are running a successful business, this is one of the biggest fears for us is how do you avoid that situation right there?
Yeah. I'd say you raise your awareness of the platform to a point where you can tell when somebody's doing something like that. Or
it's
like
the only way. You got to really get in and know it.
You've got to at least be able to know like what's going on, like the insights. He could have at any point looked at who's coming into his page, or
like,
look
this doesn't add up.
or like click on your followers and just see like their profile pictures.
Yeah.
Most of them had like cartoons as their profile pictures. Whereas like, okay, none of this makes any sense.
Yeah.
And so I just said, fire them. If I can figure out how to do this the right way for you, like I'll go into the platform and actually learn how to market. I've never taken a marketing course before. Still actually to this day, I've never taken a marketing course. I've never read a marketing book. I've never done any like traditional marketing knowledge. I've only learned how to do it by actually doing it.
Gotcha.
And I refuse to read marketing books now.
So you told him about the situation. Did you get involved or?
No, he just fired them.
Okay.
And I was just like, let me start doing this for you. If I can figure it out, pay me a few $100 a month to do it.
Okay, so you started working with him.
Yeah, so I started just building up fan pages.
And how'd that kind of take off? Was it struggling at the beginning or?
No, we did amazing, like pretty much right away.
Really? Out of the gates, you just kind of picked it up or?
Yeah, I think within the first year, we gotten him, I stripped his page from the 30,000 back down to like 2,000 people who were actually like following him. And then in the first year, we got him up to 190,000 followers.
Wow.
And we'd only
I'm assuming this wasn't the Philippines people anymore.
No, this is only like United States, Canada,
Gotcha.
Australia, and the UK.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we like built him up a super solid foundation of people. And about halfway through there, I just started picking up other clients. Similar to like when I wanted to coach and help people.
Yeah.
I knew that I wanted to do this, but I knew I needed like untouchable results in order to have any type of respect in the space as a 19-year-old kid or 20 at the time. And so maybe I just turned 21. Yeah, I was 21, about to turn 22 when I was about to move down here. And so what I started doing was I picked bigger companies, like 7-8 figure companies. I would go to them and I'd say, hey, if you can, like, here's what I've done with this guy's page. I'm now looking to help people like sell their products and services and build their brands at the same time. Mm-hmm. If you can guarantee me $25,000 to $35,000 a month in ad spend, I'll do your work for $500. So I was charging them pennies to run their ads. And so obviously they'd say yes, because it's such an easy thing for them to do. And I would tell them, like, if I spend $1,000 and I get nothing back from you, fire me immediately. Like, don't pay me any more. Don't give me the ad spend. Don't do anything. And so they saw that I was responsible with their budgets. So they were willing to spend the $25,000 to $35,000 a month. And so I just got like a new playground to go play in. I got to go figure out advertising and marketing by just doing it, testing these things versus this thing, testing all the different combinations.
Doing and then learning versus learning and then doing, which I see a lot of people, especially with social media marketing and all that. So many people are just trying to take all these courses, learn all this information, yet they've never even ran or tested an ad in their life. Mm-hmm. And so getting into it, based off of what you've done, what would your kind of recommendation be for like the people watching to get started in marketing?
Just like anything, it's repetition. So do as many iterations of that thing as possible. Like fail fast, fail hard, fail forward. Just continue doing it. Find people who are actually willing to take a chance on you, but realize like because everybody's looking for the big project. Mm-hmm. I didn't start really charging what I was worth until about a year and a half ago.
Wow.
Before then, I wasn't charging anything more than like $1,500 a month to run, and some of them were like big like ad spends, like where I had a lot of responsibility. I was still doing from back when I was driving for Lyft and Uber, I was still doing those 20-hour days.
Wow.
So from like,
talk about patience,
yeah,
which paid off from what you learned in your life.
Huge.
That's because a lot of people, I feel like they don't have the patience. They want to not only, take action and then figure it out after, but also charge a huge price on top, which I think adds a lot of stress and takes away from you actually trying to get better at your craft versus claiming you're the expert and then putting out content where you just know what you're doing. And if something wrong happens, it's you point fingers.
Yeah, everybody takes a course now, and now they're the expert on the thing. And what I've seen a lot of people do is crash and burn with that fast because they paint themselves as this expert, and then they come in and completely trash somebody's ad account, or they completely ruin somebody's brand. Now that person who's done so much work to build up what they've done, now every finger's pointed at you to say, what the hell did you just do? Yeah. I've seen so many people, I've seen people go into like mad depression, drug addiction, alcoholism, like ruin their business because they didn't have the patience to build the expertise before claiming they were an expert. I still don't like calling myself an expert.
Yeah.
I've spent $4.5 million on Facebook for my clients.
Wow.
And I still wouldn't say I'm the best at it. That's
out there. A year and a half ago is when you started charging what you thought was fair. Before that, how long was it till they got to that point from when you started?
So November 2015 is when I started, and April of 2018.
Oh wow!
Is when I
several years of
switched up my pricing finally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like you're trying to rush the pricing. You felt like that was a good time where, like, how did you come up with the thought that, okay, now I need to change my prices? Because a lot of people struggle with that. Sometimes they've been working for a long time, like building that expertise. Like for me, for example, with photography, I am in extreme agreement where, like, for me, I don't want to be charging high prices because I feel like I'm still just learning as a photographer.
Yeah.
And I want to spend, some people I've listened to, they say like 3 to 5 years. Some say like a few years.
Yeah, it's not so much the time.
It's not?
I don't think it's the time as much as in acquiring the expertise.
So if it's not time, then what is, expertise?
Yeah, I think it's the repetitions.
Reps.
It's that 10,000 hours.
And those reps in.
It's like those 10,000 hours can either happen over a 30-year career or it can happen over 2 or 3 dedicated years to doing the thing. Like if we were to calculate, and I don't even know what it is. If I was to calculate, like, let's say 18 to 20 hours a day times 3 years, I was probably pretty close to that 10,000 hours.
But that's what you were
around
doing?
That time. Yeah.
20?
I was doing about 20 hours a day. Just digging, figuring things out.
No sleep, just hard work.
I was sleeping probably 3 or 4 hours a night consistently.
Wow.
And to me, again, I was used to doing things at a high level.
Yeah.
And so just the tenacity from that, I think, carried over into marketing, which tenacity and marketing usually aren't things that are synonymous. Yeah. But I took like a very athletic, like from my sports background, I took that mentality into this new thing that I was doing where I was like, I don't deserve to sleep yet. I'm not good yet. When I'm good, I can sleep. And I don't want to, it's not this like rah motivation like Gary Vee kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it was like a legit, I just didn't feel comfortable sleeping because I'm trying to do this thing. If the thing is the goal, if sleep is the goal, go sleep. If doing this thing and being amazing at it is the goal, you sleep later, especially when we're like 20, 21. Yeah. Because I didn't know very many friends who were sleeping that much anyway, but it was because they were up till 4 o'clock in the morning partying. I was just doing something very different and not sleeping in until noon the next day. So it was like I was staying up just as late as them, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, but I was getting up at 7 because I got more things to do.
Wow.
And so it wasn't like, I don't want it to turn into this rah motivational kind of thing because it's not. It was just, I was being led to do this thing. And I think I waited too long to raise my prices. I didn't raise my prices until I hit $32 million spent or made for my clients. And so I had spent about $3.5 million at the time. I had made, I think, $32 million total. So we were average 11 times return for my clients at that point. Like, okay, I was like, okay, now I'm able to really, without a shadow of a doubt, I can charge pretty much whatever I want to charge and somebody's going to pay it.
That's interesting. It made me immediately think like that. Still, at 20 hours sounds insane, but it's not when you have that passion for what you're doing. I feel like a good giveaway of if you're on the right path or not is, can you commit to 20 hours a day focused on that goal? Mm-hmm. And if not, maybe that's not exactly what you're wanting to do. Or what's your kind of take on the whole, like, what if someone just doesn't feel like they want to do 20 hours a day on that?
You don't have to. It'll just take longer.
Gotcha.
So it's not, you don't have to do it. It'll just take longer if you don't. And like, some people can't. Some people have a wife and kids,
yes,
or husband and kids. Some people have like their families they got to take care of. Some people have other responsibilities. I was in a brand new state. It was just me and my old business partner at the time. Like, I didn't have any distraction. My family doesn't live here. My friends don't live here. I'm not a big partier. So it was like, okay, I'm going to sit in my apartment and do the thing. And then I can come out and talk about having done the thing. Like, I didn't really start working on my brand until the beginning of 2018. I think like March, I want to say it was on my brother's birthday. So it was like March 29th was the first time I like posted a status talking about like, hey, everybody, here's actually what I've been doing the last 3 years.
Wow.
Because I'd only posted like funny stuff before then, or maybe like some psychology stuff or, you know, motivation, whatever. It was the first time I'd ever said like, hey, it's kind of me coming out of my cave and be like, hey, here's actually what I've been doing since I've been a little bit more quiet.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I feel like a big topic is personal brands recently. Because I mean, it's amazing to build your personal brand. For when you're going through business, you might pivot, you know, figuring out what you want to do. Your personal brand's always you. But at the same time, putting in the work versus showcasing the things you're doing and spending that time in either building your own brand or building your knowledge. What's your thoughts on that? Because a lot of people, you know, they're all out on social media, or they're like, a lot of people, especially older generation, talks about how, you know, they're still utilizing social media, but they would say like, yo, cut out Instagram, cut out these social media platforms for a while. Mm-hmm. So it's like these two kind of trains of thought where it's like, even me getting into social media marketing and still learning from people like you, people that I've been partnering up with. Should I be focusing, in your opinion, on building my personal brand, or should I be focused more on the learning, or both?
I think both.
Really? You did just polar one.
Yeah. And I would say going back, I would have done both. I would be more heavy on the learning.
Okay.
A lot more heavy on the learning. But if I had been heavy on the learning and the personal brand, by the time I was at a point of learning where I was able to charge more, I wouldn't have had to take that 6 to 9 months that it took to build up the brand.
Okay.
So if you are done, like if you're not done with the learning, but if you're at a point where you're like, okay, I would consider myself the top 5% at this thing. If you've already got a brand there waiting for you that you've been working on, that's a huge advantage that I didn't do. And I should have. I should have taken that time to start building my brand around it. The only thing for me was like, I didn't want to have like that imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I'm talking about marketing, but I'm not really doing it at a certain level. Where I think a lot of people fall off is they focus too much on brand, where you haven't really done anything to deserve it.
Yeah.
And what happens with a lot of those people is, instead of taking that step back and saying, let me not post 4 times a day, let me post once a day or every few days, and then really take that step back and learn the thing that I'm trying to talk about. They dive headfirst into the brand and they charge these exorbitant prices, having no real expertise built up. You've actually never done anything. I would say do something that's brandable. Like, you on your dad's boat isn't enough to build a brand around.
No.
Which is what a lot of people seem to be doing right now. Like, I don't think any 14-year-old should have a brand until you've done something that's capable of having a brand built around it. Gotcha. Like, start doing the work and then build a brand around that, but do the work.
So what's kind of that brand building look like before you have that showpiece? Because obviously you got to start building from the ground up.
Yeah.
What's that? I feel like a lot of people don't talk about this, that section in your time where, like, you know, if you found out what you want to do, and even if it's like in marketing, like some people watching, they're wanting to get into marketing. Obviously the big thing is, well, if you can't market yourself, how are you supposed to market for others? A lot of people say. So,
Stupid. That's such a dumb thing to say.
Yeah?
I've never run an ad for myself.
Really?
Not once. but I've run $4 million in ads for other people. So the whole "we'll do for yourself what you're doing for your clients" is stupid.
So then what is the mindset they should be having for that part build up for like what kind of content would they be putting out then?
Be honest with your journey.
Okay.
What is so amazing, and there's people that I follow now who are in marketing who I'll end up, like, I've reached out to people and be like, hey, I want to spend a few hours with you on the phone. I want to help you out with what you're doing, because they've been honest about their journey. They've talked about, like, I saw where they started and they didn't try to position themselves as an expert. They won. They're like, hey, I just got into marketing. Maybe they just bought a course. Maybe they just did a book. Maybe they just did a training, which I don't think are problems. The only problem is when you take that and think you're an expert right after it.
So they're more so just sharing what they're learning.
Yeah. Hey, I just got into this space. I'm trying to figure it out. Who's willing to take partially take a chance on me?
Oh,
and
I see.
Let me for a small, like, again, $200 a month. I've got this kid I'm working with right now who lives near me in Gilbert, Arizona. And he's like, dude, yeah, I'm doing like a month's worth of marketing for somebody for like $375. I'm like, good. You don't need to charge what I charge. That's less than 1/10 of what I charge. But you're learning. You're learning how to do it. Take businesses that are at that level that can afford that and start working with them. As your expertise grows, maybe you got that person, maybe their ad spend was $200 for that month, but you made them $800. I just got a 4x return for this client. You can now take that to the next client and say, hey, my last project, here's what we were able to do. Here's the success that we've been able to build. And you're building off of success, not off of just story and brand and here's who I think I am. So it's actually saying, like, here's the tangible results I've gotten. This is specifically for marketing.
Yeah.
But here's what I've tangibly been able to do. And I'm going to build my brand off of that and keep going higher and higher and higher there, where you can eventually charge that $5,000, $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 a month.
I see.
Or start taking chunks of people's businesses. Hey, I'm going to charge you this little amount per month, but I want 20% of any revenue that I generate for you.
Gotcha. So you're kind of being honest with where you're at. You're taking, like, let's say that first win and using that as a reference to take the ideas and put it back to something tangible in your content, and then consistently look for, hey, beyond, like, I'm open to new clients. I'm starting out. Say that. A lot of people won't even say, they only talk about the results, yet they don't even ask openly for work. And you're saying to do that.
That's crazy to me. Talk to, like,
because people want to act like they're fully listed, like they're full. They want to act like they're.
Oh my gosh!
They don't
have got
like,
two
they can't
slots
take
open.
Yeah.
I think it's so stupid. I've got a friend who still does that.
Really?
He runs a. I don't even want to say what he does because they'll know who I'm talking about.
Sure, but
he runs a service that's like within marketing.
Yeah.
And he'll talk all the time. He's like, I've got 2 slots open this month, and he's making like $500 a month.
Wow.
Like, you don't have 2 slots. You're full of absolute shit.
Yeah.
But you're thinking that that's going to position you as like, I'm this hot commodity that everybody should want to work with me.
There's that demand. People are trying to create that.
And it works sometimes. But I think for most people just look at you like a schmuck. Like, they look at you like, I would never want to work with you anyway.
It comes off, you can just know, you know what it is when you see it.
It feels sleazy.
Yeah.
It feels super, super slimy.
Instead, be honest, like, hey, I'm still learning and I'm open to new clients. Yep. That message versus, I got 2 spots left for my exclusive social media group.
My VIP,
that have been
whatever.
in business for less than a month, but hey, we'll get you those amazing results. Go up, like, look, I'm honest with what I'm doing. I'm transparent. I'm willing to work lower amount, but I'm able to still bring results. Here's a few wins I've had. I'm looking to scale up.
That's it. And the thing is, those people who take that chance on you, they end up benefiting like crazy. I've got a client still to this day who pays me $800 a month for her marketing and has never paid me anything over that. And she's spending about $12,000, $15,000 a month on her marketing. We're making her about $65,000 a month right now.
Wow.
And she pays me $800, and I've told her I'll never raise her pricing. Not once.
Why?
She stuck with me from the beginning.
Gotcha.
She was a client like 3 months in when I was still charging like $500 or $800 a month.
Yeah.
And she even was the one who wanted to jump from like $500 to $800. Now, eventually, I know she'll, like, probably in the next few months, we'll start just doing like a percentage of like whatever revenue I'm generating for her. I'm going to take like 10% or whatever it is as she's ramping up more. But it's like, I know people who've told me now, damn, I wish I would have worked with you a year ago. I was charging a third of what I charge now a year ago.
Wow.
And they could have come in there. They chose not to. That's fine. I don't hold anything against them for it. I'm still able to like interact with them all the time. Like a few of them are actually people that I really enjoy interacting with online. But the people who do make the jump end up benefiting so much later. And that's all the incentive they should need to make the jump. Also, they're usually supposed to be at a spot in their business where they can take a $500 hit. If you end up sucking at what you do and they're with you for a month, they can take the $500 and be like, that sucks. Hey, maybe when you're better or maybe when you're, a little bit more established, we can try to come back and do this. I've had failed projects from a year and a half ago that have hired me on just within like the last 6 months. And I'm charging 3 times that. It sounds weird that it's like, well, you charged me $1,500 and you failed. And now you're charging me $4,500. And I'm supposed to trust that you're going to do a good job.
Yeah.
But because of my branding, because they've seen how much success I've had for other people and how I've been able to help other people with their businesses, with their brands, I've grown that trust over the last year and a half to where they do feel confident. They didn't have any questions for me. They didn't have any like objections at all. How much does it cost to work with you now? Here's what it is. Cool. Send us a contract. It was super, super simple because I've been honest with where I'm at the entire time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So like on the opposite side, we're like talking about the businesses themselves. How are they able to just like know where they're at to reach out to someone like yourself that has a higher price point but tons of experience, or start with someone new? How are like people watching that have their own businesses that aren't marketing? They know social media a little bit. They've done that like we talked about earlier. They know it a bit so they don't get screwed over. But how do they know where to like position themselves on, okay, I need to get with someone that's starting out or someone like you?
Yeah, I'd say about, and I don't have like a specific quantified number. I'd say whatever you're willing to risk in like an ad spend, at least from my perspective, I would be willing to risk that or maybe half of that in services. So if I'm spending $2,000 a month in ad spend, I'm probably willing to risk $1,000 a month to pay somebody. So I need somebody who's at that $1,000 level to be running my advertising for me.
Gotcha.
Now it changes as you get bigger. If you got a $150,000 budget, it does not mean you need to pay somebody $30,000 a month.
Yeah.
But sometimes you may have to. Like when you're at the level where I'm operating now, I do charge about 20% of what I'm generating for somebody. And so you like, in order for me to make you $150,000, you may have to pay me $30,000, which may sound insane, but that $150,000 you wouldn't be having unless we were working together anyway, because of the types of return I'm getting people. But once you're able to establish that, then you're able to ask for a lot more. When you're at that lower level though, if you got $2,000 a month to spend, maybe spend that extra $1,000 in paying somebody, total of $3,000. If they make you $5,000 that next month, you're pretty happy about it.
Gotcha.
You're not too pissed off. Also, if you're one of the marketers, if you take their budget, if they got a $2,000 budget, I'm not going to try to charge them $4,000 to work with me, because I'd have to make them $6,000 just to break even.
Yeah.
But people don't like doing that simple math with ourselves. And a lot of it has to do with like what price is the thing that you're trying to sell. Selling low ticket, whatever, $97 something, is very, very different than selling a $10,000 training that you're doing. And I think your budget should also reflect what you're trying to sell. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who are like, well, my package is $8,000. I'm trying to sell this $8,000 manifestation course, let's say. Like it's a coaching program where I walk you through how to manifest money in your life and how to do all these different things. And I'll be like, well, what's your budget? Well, I was thinking we could start off with like $600-$700. I'm like, you're expecting me to turn $700 into $8,000 in a month you've never marketed this thing before. You've never done any advertising for it. Like managing expectations is a big piece of it.
Gotcha.
Where it's like, okay, if you're trying to sell something for $8,000, your budget should be a minimum $8,000. Minimum.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so when businesses bring on these marketers, I know a lot of them, they have success, but then they also have people that they're not necessarily just completely failing, yet they're not sure, like they have the experience, like you said, to look at the insights and things are kind of going, but maybe someone better might be that, maybe someone better out there to do that. What advice do you have for businesses that are kind of in that position where they have someone they're working with and they're kind of in that in-between phase where they don't know if this person should keep going or they should switch it up?
Yeah.
What advice do you have for them?
The way I sometimes go about it, because I've got some clients who are like, I'm paying my marketing team. I like them. They're not producing the type of results, but the intent is there. I know they're really hard workers. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they just hire me to come in and consult with their marketing team.
Oh,
how to do their own marketing better. So if you've got that dude who's charging you $500 a month and you're really wanting to like up level where what you're getting, instead of maybe hiring me to do it, where I'm going to charge you 10 times as much as he's charging, maybe it's you take that one-time fee and I charge you $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to come in and consult with him. And maybe he ends up doing 4 times better than what he's currently doing just because he's had me helping him out. Gotcha. Like it only sometimes takes a few hours with somebody who really knows what they're doing and doesn't have to like think through. There's a lot of campaigns I'll come in and somebody's running a campaign and I can easily identify, I can triple your money just by doing these 3 little things here.
Nice. I've never thought about it that way. Like actually look after your own team. And if you see someone that has expertise, like, hey, this person's been killing it. We're not getting the results, but we want to see them. And we know this guy's been killing us. He's been with us since the beginning. A lot of people, they build those relationships.
It's commitment.
And so bringing someone in that can consult, I love that.
It's the long-term way to go about it. And again, when they start doing better, you start paying them better because you're happy paying them more because you want them happy because they're producing more for you when they're excited to work about your project. Exactly. I've had clients who have told me like, hey, I don't think I'm paying you enough to be excited about working with me. I'm going to pay you more so that you can pay more attention to my project because they know I've got other clients that I'm working on as well. Now, it would be dumb to believe that somebody who's paying me $1,000 a month, I'm going to be just excited about that project as somebody who's paying me $6,000, $7,000 a month. Mm-hmm. It's just not there.
Yeah.
And you cannot expect that from anybody. Mm-hmm. So I've had clients who they see like as my business is growing that like I don't give them as many meetings with me or changes aren't happening as quickly as they were before. I've had clients who have asked to pay me more so that they can have more attention paid to their project. When it's a team effort, as soon as you notice a problem, the objective should be to fix the problem, not to blame. Mm. So sometimes when a client's not doing that well or their project's not doing that well, I'll have to come in and say, okay, what other pieces of their business do they maybe need more help in? That's not necessarily advertising, where we can help out my advertising efforts. So if it's a collaborative effort, if it's genuinely us trying to help a business grow and scale, we're willing to go outside of our responsibilities often and maybe point out, hey, here's something that may be lacking. Now, in order to fix it, it may be an extra charge or something, but the willingness to go outside of what's in your contract and say, here's the extra step I'm willing to go to help out, or for sometimes from clients, here's the extra cost I'm willing to pay to get more of your time, more of your expertise. The willingness to do that is a good indicator of a good marketer who's willing to go out of their way to help you more, and a good client who's willing to go out of the way to respect your time a lot more.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So how long have you been taking on more of this consultation role?
Beginning of 2018 is when I started really, really stepping into it. I started offering like hourly consulting or like 3, 4, 5, 6 month consulting packages.
And you were saying earlier before we got on too that you haven't just been consulting companies with their Facebook marketing, but also consulting people with other areas of their life. So let's talk about that more, because you've been doing you hit that mark a year and a half ago where you started charging your prices. When did the coaching? What exactly have you been coaching outside of Facebook? So
I do like branding and positioning coaching as well, like within business.
Okay.
And I've really had like this bug since like September for talking more about like interpersonal relationships and how we interact with one another, how we relate to one another, everything around that, specifically like in the manhood masculinity space, just because it's something that's an interest of mine.
Yeah.
I like exploring what makes men men, and how we interact and intertwine. Even like it sometimes goes a little bit into like the spiritual, like the combination of masculine and feminine energy within each person and how they interact with one another, how men need to incorporate their feminine side to a degree, but also allow their male side to be dominant, their masculine side to be dominant within those scenarios. And so it's just kind of like a new obsession I've got that I will be turning into a business probably later this year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
But since then, have you been consulting with people so far with it? Or has it been pretty much...
Yeah, so it's not advertised anywhere. Like I don't talk about it, like that I'm doing like any type of relationship coaching or masculinity coaching for men, like how to step in and step up. But the
branding you have.
I'm starting to brand myself in that way just because it's, again, it's something I'm obsessing over right now.
Well, I mean, like for the brand, like branding advice for people you've been working on.
Yeah. Okay. So I've been doing that as well as basically just how your brand shows up to the world and to specifically to your ideal market. So we try to identify who you're for and who you're not for is a big thing. Who does your brand not want to work with? I think that's something that most people don't even take into account is like, who am I so not willing to work with?
Yeah.
And let those people know, here's who I'm not willing to work with.
And those could be the underlying problems, not really the ads, but the actual brand itself.
Yeah. You haven't positioned yourself correctly within your market. A lot of times that's a big piece of the problem.
Gotcha. So like, for people dealing with their personal brands, they've actually built up, like they've gone past that first phase we were talking about where they now know what they need to know. What kind of advice do you have for them on like the branding side that you help with, like people that you consult with? What do you see the big issues being and what are kind of the answers to those?
Yeah. Again, I think it's taking that like third eye omniscient view. They talk about that like in literature. Third eye omniscient is removing it from yourself, being able to see the whole picture outside of how you feel about it. So if you say you have this clientele, how do they need to be served? Not necessarily only how do you want to serve them, but what exactly do they need from you? Because for me, as like a coach, consultant, expert, whatever you want to call it, your job is to encompass the needs of your clientele. Not just be able to serve this little piece of it, but be able to say within this area, I can handle any problem you may run into, even if that means I need to go do more research. There's a lot of stuff that I run into in marketing for my clients where I'm like, oh, I don't know the answer. But I trust in my ability and my resourcefulness to go find the answer very quickly.
Yeah, I always say like when people tell you what is an expert, I think or like even in school when people talk about PhDs, like the master of knowledge, it's not so much being able to pull it off the top of your head, but knowing where to go quickly to find the answer.
And quicker than your client will, and in a more creative way, a more unique spin on things than your client is willing to or capable of going.
Yeah.
I joke a lot of times, I just use Google better than most people. I know the right question to ask, and I know the type of answer I'm looking for.
And that's what makes you an expert.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know everything.
Yeah.
There's no way in the world I can know everything about, even like Facebook ads. Yeah. That is what I do. I'm immersed in it most, like a lot of my day.
Amazing results, yet still.
I don't know everything about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, to say I know everything about it specifically for your project too is even more crazy.
Really?
Like, I don't know specifically every single element that we're going to need for your project, but I know where to find the information. I also know what questions to ask based on me understanding your brand and how you choose to show up, which is also why branding is important, so that you can articulate it very clearly to other people. Because a lot of people, the biggest reason people don't purchase is not because the price is too high for anything. It's confusion. If I don't know straightforward what I'm getting for what I'm paying, I'm just not going to do it. So it's more people are confused by what exactly you're offering or what exactly your brand is. It's more often that than they're just not interested.
The clarity, there's not really the clarity there. I see.
Yeah.
Interesting. It's crazy to see like the changes of how much social media, Instagram, Facebook, things like that have been people pushing so much on themselves, building their personal brand, pushing out the information, listening to a bunch of different people they say one thing, say the other. But at the end of the day, I feel like, especially from our conversations, it's really the experience of doing it and then learning. And the behaviors, the behavior of doing it, the behavior of growing, the behaviors that you set in place of most of the habits of an individual that's doing what you want to do, kind of getting those habits, kind of copying those habits from individuals that are being successful. That's kind of the reason I love doing this podcast, or how you kind of ask those people questions. For me, it's really interesting to see what habits people have that, I know the information, I know what they're telling me, yet I feel like it's more of a subconscious thing. So are there mentors that you have that you've been picked up on those type of habits, or is it all been just, because I feel like right now it's a big mentor world right now. There's a book, there's a course, there's someone out there that's doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
So, and it seems like in marketing, such a saturated market, that seems like, we're young guns, we want to take action, let's go learn from the best. But not necessarily what you would do, or you would recommend for other people?
I don't know. And I think it depends on how you learn. Do you learn better from other people? I learn better by just doing the thing. I don't like talking about it very much. When I'm inside of it, I don't like talking about it very much. I just go do the thing over and over and over again until I get good at it. If that's the type of person you are, a mentor is probably not the right thing. I've never paid a mentor to do anything for me, to help me in any type of business. I've attracted amazing people who have helped along the way. Even in the manhood masculinity stuff, I've got 2 guys in my life who, if I were to pay them, would probably cost me about $250,000 a year to work with them. That's what they charge their clients. I've never paid them a dime, and they wouldn't allow me to, even if I wanted to.
How did you get that situation?
I think you have to be the right person. And it's not that I'm this extra special person. I was the right person at the right time to meet them, where they've bought into who I am as a person and who I'm trying to be and who I'm interested in becoming. And they've bought into that, which is why they want to work with me. And I've done the same thing to people who are not quite at my level yet. I've had guys who I don't charge them anything, and I wouldn't allow them to pay me anything in order to help them build their businesses or fix their mindset or help them out with things. There's just certain people you connect very well with. And so sometimes it's just finding those people, sometimes more established or older than you in your target area, that can kind of help be those guides for you. You don't always have to pay that, to be part of this $25,000 mastermind or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's not always necessary to have the physical investment. Sometimes it's just being intrigued enough by what somebody else does that they're willing to kind of take you under their wing to a certain extent.
Interesting. But do you think that financial investment, obviously creating an entrepreneur space, I mean, a lot of people want to sell me on their masterminds, like you said. And the big thing they mentioned was, the price, it's to make you motivated to stick with the program. What's your kind of thoughts on is that missing the point?
If you're an unmotivated person, it definitely works.
Okay.
I'm not willing to work with unmotivated people.
Gotcha.
So if you're unmotivated, the price is going to motivate you. If you're internally motivated, or if your motivation is not financial, it's not going to help you. That's why I know people who've spent $150,000 or more on all different types of courses, programs, whatever. They think that their financial investment is what's going to return them whatever they're looking for in business or in mindset shifts, and it never does. It's because they think money's the answer.
It's not a financial investment. They need to invest themselves. Like everyone says, invest in yourself. But it's more so in learning the skills, just doing it.
Or it's becoming the right person.
How do you do that?
If you are not the type of person who's capable of living the type of life you want, if your actions aren't fitting what you think your beliefs are, then there's a misalignment there. If you feel like you're supposed to be this very successful person, if you feel led towards that, but your decisions or what you're willing to put into it don't match up, you're just not going to achieve it. And no course is going to get you there. So you have to become the right person in the right area in order to attract that type of lifestyle or that type of income or that type of relationship or that type of whatever. You've got to be the right person to receive it before it'll ever show up for you.
And to do that, is that more so like an internal, like go out and meditate, or how do you figure that out?
I think it's, so there's so many different, like there's the meditation, there's like manifesting, whatever. I really think it's like those internal checks. Is my external beliefs fitting my internal willingness to do the thing or to figure out what's holding me back from doing that thing? I don't think it's as complex as we make it.
That sounds kind of simple. It's just constantly checking in on yourself.
It's just
which
throughout
I think
the day.
I could say I don't think I check in enough.
And that is so hard nowadays because we have all this distraction. It's just taking that second and checking in and saying, like, it's like a systems check. It's an oil change. It's whatever you want to call it. But being able to say, am I acting in alignment with what I'm expecting from myself or from other people? Am I giving into relationships as much as I feel like I'm getting out of it or what I'm expecting out of it? Am I giving into my business as much as I'm expecting out of it? Am I giving into financially? Am I giving as much, or am I willing to risk as much as I'm expecting to get from it? Like where am I not aligned with what I'm putting out versus what I feel like I'm supposed to receive?
Wow. Now my mind's just time's already passed, but I just want to keep learning more. So like people watching, where can they learn more about what you're doing? Because you said you're going to be getting more into the personal development space going forward this year, on top of already having a successful marketing business. So where can they follow you and get to know more information on what you're doing in your journey?
Yeah, probably just my social. Like I post everything there. I'm very open online with just me, my journey, and what I'm doing. So, I mean, my personal Facebook, if you send me a friend request, send a message with it because I get too many. I can't like dig through them all. So I think that's like facebook.com/Kyree Oliver 1994. Okay. I want to say it's my personal Facebook. My fan page is facebook.com/Kyree Oliver, I want to say. My Instagram's @Kyree. I don't post as much, but I'm getting better at Instagram and like posting more consistent content. But any type of social media is really where you can kind of stay up to date on where I'm at, what I'm working on, what I'm doing, the new things that I'm pushing out, new perspectives I have. I always try to ask like decent questions to people, just kind of helping people think more.
Gotcha, man. Well, dude, it was so good
I appreciate
talking to you, having conversations. I look forward to having more. I didn't even know half the stuff that we just discovered today. It's crazy. Like you said, with the amount of people you've talked to, that's powerful. And I did not know that about you, and I don't know many people that have done that.
I don't know anybody.
And I feel like some people, they do it on like podcasts and whatnot to get that more external, like, hey, I'm a personal brand, I'm killing it. But like actually getting to know people's story and not so much worry about your side, that's powerful. Plus the marketing, it's so many things today that were just amazing. So I hope all of you guys enjoyed that conversation. If you want to find out more, he told you where to find them. And let's go, Young Guns. See you guys later.